Hello everyone, I will share you how I draw mermaids. Mermaid 2023 is going to be the biggest mermaid challenge ever because we all know that there is an upcoming huge film, the highly anticipated Disney film next year, The Little Mermaid 2023. So it's going to be very noisy, it's going to be a month of underwater creatures and of course a lot of mermaids since it will release in the month of May. So we have to prepare our materials, we have to prepare our inspirations, we have to do it early as much as we can. Okay, so I want to help you and let's proceed. So the first thing is coming up with the idea. How I come up with ideas. I know that there were times even we have a good and outstanding ideas at the back of our minds. We really struggle on interpreting it and actually doing it. And I want to give you some little tips how to work that out. Let's go. Number 1, pick an activity. I used to provide the character an actual activity. Means she could be singing, wandering, touching, or holding something. This step can be a good way to support our pose idea for the mermaid, so we could avoid struggling doing a lot of poses during the rough sketch. Number 2, rough sketch. You can start composing movement from the certain activity that you choose, which means if you pick up a pose, for example, a mermaid that is holding something, it is going to be the focal point of the sketch pose. You have to root on that certain spot where she holds something, and from that focal point, you can start making freestyle, fluid sketches around it. Number 3, freestyle fluid lines for sketches. In this part, this won't be really hard if you provide flowy references that can inspire us to wonder flowy visuals. And my flowy references came from the flowy beautiful things from different artists. I used to look from underwater fabric art and underwater fashion and fish photographies. You can see it everywhere in Google, Instagram, Pinterest, wherever you want to search, you can see it everywhere. This is a big help and will give you ideas to draw flowy objects underwater and will help you pick the right colors to be used. Number 4, stylization of the mermaid and its mermaid tail. So in this part I will give you a quote, adapt and then express. Your stylization will always be up to you, but we can always adapt and get influence to make a satisfying mermaid drawing. We can always look for our favorite artist mermaid art styles and other mermaid characters, and we can start adapting the visuals of it. There are so many ways to draw scales and fins, but if we stay true to how we really want to draw it, it's okay to get references from artists that inspires us. So my biggest influence in my mermaid stylization is Jane Pica's Mermaids, Winx Club Mermaids, and other random mermaid art styles that I saw on Instagram from this amazing artist. So we are going to move into the drawing proper, which I'm going to show you how I actually draw a mermaid. So the very idea of this artwork is I'm going to recreate the old version of Little Mermaid, and it's from a coloring book, a classic coloring book cover. So that's why I am tracing the pose of the character from the original. So originally, Ariel is hugging Flounder on the original version, but Flounder in the cartoon version is way bigger than the version of Flounder in the live action. So there's going to be big difference on the overall look. So in my version, she's not really hugging. She's like more of a looking on Flounder in front of her hands, something like that. So in this part, I am particularly focusing on the activity of the character, which is she's holding Flunder, and that's what I told earlier, that you have to focus on the focal point of your character, just to emphasize her actual activity. And then after polishing the activity of your character, you can finally extend the lines. You can finally extend the design or the drawing of your character. You can extend her tails, her fins, her hair, and every additional details. Okay, so this one, it's a new artwork, and I'm just going to show you how I actually start from a zero reference. Like, I'm just going to show you how I actually start from nothing to something. So in this one, I'm just simply trying to figure out how is the character going to look like, her overall silhouette, her overall shape on the canvas. So I'm just trying to figure out like how I'm going to draw her, what is her pose going to be, and the directions of her tails and her hair. So in this one, I am trying to draw a mermaid that is she's swimming, but she took a little moment to look at her back. So suddenly the movement of her hair goes like that, like she's actually swimming, but she stopped for a moment. So you can you can actually capture, that moment on this pose. And then a new sample is this one, which is a simple mermaid that is sitting. And the activity that I choose is she's just sitting on the ground of the ocean underwater, and then looking up, wondering what's above there. So it's just going to be like a um, very simple idea. And then of course her hair and her fins just going to be simple. So I think her tail here is inspired from uh, Jane Pica's Mermaid. Looks like very simple, very simply composed, but very flowy. So I'm just going back to the previous character. I'm just going to make a final sketch lines for her, because the first one was really rough. This one is so this one I'm just cleaning the sketch, so it's going to be the most likely going to be the overall look of the final output. So in this part, this is where the importance of references that I'm talking about before enters. That these sketches of the tales, this doesn't come from nothing. This idea comes from a photograph that I saw before, which those betta fish, and I'm just trying to reconnect on that reference, on those images, and try to make it the inspiration of these wavy tails. There you can see on the final sketch that there is a actual activity that is captured on the drawing, so that is the focal point that I'm talking about. So silhouettes are just basically the main base of the idea that you're going to do, or the visual shape of the character that you just draw. So in this part, you just have to be very natural on how you're going to express your style. And for me, there's a lot of curve and a lot of fluid lines, so I'm gonna make sure that the silhouettes will not go far on the very first idea that I had during the sketch, which is if the the hair is blowing around, and if the tails were going everywhere, I have to include that on the shape silhouettes, just to maintain the energy and to maintain the vibe, and the energy that I had. So let's move on to coloring. And there are so many tools in coloring. I use Procreate sometimes, or mostly, but sometimes I use Photoshop. So I'm going to show you how to do it on these two different apps. So basically, in Procreate, everything's quite really simple, and it's really easy to use, and then all of the brushes were just simply there, the textures, and they really had nice brushes. That's what I really like about Procreate, and you can just tap and double tap, and everything is moving. And I mean, unlike pen tablets, that are connected to our computers, Procreate is way more easier. And so as same as how I draw mermaids, it's easier for me to draw mermaids because first of all, I like the tools, and the brushes were really high quality, I can say. Yeah, but it will always depend on the user. But this one, I just want to show you how I actually do it. You know, in case you also draw on Procreate. Okay, finally, drawing fins, and we're still on Procreate, and I think I and we're still on Procreate, and it's I think I'm doing pretty much the same, the way I do it on Photoshop, also the way I do on Procreate. Um, these fins, I mean, and for me, there's a lot of way to draw fins, and it depends on the brush that you like to use. Sometimes I like to use the spray paint, or sometimes the just the airbrush, because airbrush looks really soft, and it looks really really thin. Like it really looks like a transparent fin. So I'd like to use um, airbrush sometimes, the main brush, or I will use it for eraser, just to make the fin look like a real translucent fin. So as you can see, there's nothing much of details in this part because I'm just trying to draw the silhouettes of the fin itself, and the colors are not really final. So I just want to show how I work on the fins with Procreate, same as to the Photoshop. And then now here is Photoshop. You can see that I am using pen tool. For me, pen tool is a really good um, tool to use for perfect curves. So that's why I don't use brush alone on Photoshop, because if there's a tool that can help me perfect the curves and the fluid lines, I'm gonna use it. So Photoshop has pen tool that helps me all the time, so it's pretty good. Ombre effect. So I think this is one of the most important part of the tail, or the fins that we are doing, because it adds beauty on the visuals of the tail itself, because there's some kind of transition, and most of the fish has that ombre effect on their fins. So I just really think it's cool to be included. So finally, we are on the scales effect. So in this part, there are so many ways to draw scales. There are brushes that are actually scales. There are brushes that are not. Just for example, here in Photoshop, I have this brush that is a basic brush, a calligraphic, brushes. I manually, tap the surface and just to make different shapes of it, and then I'm just gonna warp it, like the warp tool, same as the Procreate. But in the Procreate, even though I also use warp tool, but there is a brush that I'm using because it can be used as a scale, but it doesn't really purposely made for scales. But you gotta be creative, and you gotta improvise to the brush that you have. So if I just think that this brush could be some kind of scales, I'll do it. And then warp tool really helps to make these shapes, and these natural shapes of scales, that it looks like the scales were rounded to her hips. And also additional to the details of the fins, we will add some kind of, linear details on the fin, just same as, same as the fins of an actual fish. So it will also, add beauty on the character. Just everything that you think will contribute to the beauty of your drawing. It's worth to try, and it's worth to, showcase. So don't be afraid of that. Just, feel free to do it. Okay, I guess that's pretty much it. I wish you enjoy and learn from it, and just take note of having references, because it's, really important. References is, what will build us, our art style. It will help us to stylize, and of course, be willing to learn, even though we sometimes we don't have much of equipment, or we don't have much tools. But if we embrace our creativity, I know that we can always improvise. That is the most important thing, that even though we don't have Procreate, or we don't have Photoshop, or we don't have this, fancy brushes just like the other artists that, we admire, there's always a room for us to improvise and just keep going, just keep drawing. And I really wish to see your process, and I'm so excited to see your mermaid drawings that you will upload next year on Mermaid 2023. Please tag me if you like to. If you apply these tips, just let me know, and I would like to give you a shout out. So thanks so much, everyone, for listening and keeping in touch. This is Art of Maku. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. Bye bye.